Hey, it's Kevin. Welcome back to the Road Warrior. My life has changed tremendously in the last year. Well, not tremendously. Starting a new job, going back into the office for the first time in forever, not working for myself. It's been strange. It's been enjoyable, but it's been strange. Then in the last month, I've done something I've been talking about doing for a bunch of years. I've been telling my wife I would do for decades. I've been a collector of stuff. Some will say junk. Some will say I'm a pack rat, but I've been a collector of toys, of Coca-Cola paraphernalia, a host of things over the years. I've gone through more collections than most people know what to do with. I started collecting little, metal pin buttons. Remember the campaign buttons back in the day? I don't even know, tin buttons, I guess you'd call them, with the little, stick pin on the back to put them on. I started collecting those when I was about 4 or 5 years old. My dad would bring them from wherever he was doing things like that, and that was my first collection. I still have all of them, tucked away in a box somewhere, and they're very heavy at this point. I've had them for so long. But I finally decided that it's time. I always told my wife, this was going to be our retirement income. We would start, instead of going to antique malls to purchase, we'd buy a booth at an antique mall and start selling. So a couple years ago during the pandemic, we went up to an antique mall just on the border of Tennessee and Kentucky, in Franklin, Kentucky. It's one I'd heard was really good, kind of fit the demographic of what I do. And it wasn't about antique furniture. It wasn't just old, when you think antiques, it wasn't really an antique mall. It was collectibles, it was antiques, it was a whole bunch of things, and a big one. And I'd been there a few times and I liked it, so I went in and it's all about getting a booth. Whether it's the big physical space or even one of the big cases, the locked cases. They had a waiting list. Like, you know what, I'll put my name in, we'll see what happens. 2 years later, I get a call from them saying, hey, we've got a booth come open, one of the little cases. Do you want it? Sign me up. Well, you got to get here on Saturday, sign the paperwork, pay your money, and get going. Okay. So, a couple weeks ago, I opened up my little space. It's not a full booth yet, but it's going to be a feeling here soon. And what I call Pop's Culture Corner. I've got Coca-Cola paraphernalia in there. I've got Goodyear collectibles. I've got RCA Victrola, the Nipper dogs. I've got those in there. I've got Cloisen pins, not the buttons yet, but the kind, the lapel pins, if you will, that my dad has collected for years. I've got some of those Olympic pins from back in the day, a Tiger Woods, American Express pin from a golf tournament years ago. Pretty well, the NASCAR diecast cars I collected for so many years. I've got a case filled with stuff right now. We'll be rotating stuff in and out, and if all goes well and I make my money and do a decent amount, we'll start opening up and expanding and starting to sell off the whole collection. Because for the most part, all that stuff has been in storage for years. It's now just stored away. A lot of it, stored in the basement kind of thing, or we used to display it in the house. And well, I've got some stuff on display these days. When I moved, I just packed it up, put it in storage, and we'd go visit it every now and again just to make sure it was still there. And I figured it was time. Time to get ready for the future. Time to stop lugging that stuff around. I have been lugging my collectibles around 40 years, 40 plus years since I left high school, and it's time for a change. So if you're ever running down Interstate 65, exit 2, Franklin, Kentucky, right there off the interstate behind the Cracker Barrel, there's an antique mall called Bright's Antique Mall. Look for Pop's Culture Corner, booth number 94. I know, shameless plug, hard to believe. I've gone from being a buyer and spending a lot of money on collectibles and toys and all sorts of things to no more buying and just some selling. See you next week, another Road Warrior. Thanks.